alternate versions of Batman. They're awesome, I love them, you love them, so why not talk about them? I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and this is the top 10 awesome alternate versions of The Dark Knight. Coming in at number 10, it's Earth 32. Unexpected. That's probably how I would describe the Batman from Earth 32. Now, the original Batman of this universe was Bruce Wayne, who also became a Green Lantern. But when he left the Earth to serve in the Green Lantern Corps, it left the role of Batman open. And who would have guessed that of all the characters, Alexander Luthor would be the one to answer the call? First appearing in Lex Luthor Year of the Villain #1 from November 2019, this Batman was partnered up with Super Martian, a cross between a Martian like Martian Manhunter and a Kryptonian like Superman. As you can imagine, they were a powerful combo. They took up a base of operations in what looked like the Batcave mixed with the Fortress of Solitude and were assisted by Fred, their awesome robotic butler. Thanks to having the Martian as his partner, Lex Batman was well acquainted with telepathy, and while it caused him some pretty bad headaches, it was also instrumental in helping deal with the Prime Earth Lex Luthor when he showed up. Number 9. Blood League. Now, we have talked about the vampire Batman who appears in the Elseworld Batman Vampire Trilogy, and that version of Batman brings us an incredible story. While that vampire Batman inspired the Batman of Earth 43, their stories are slightly different in some crucial ways. For example, the Batman of Earth 43 intentionally sought out the dark demonic gift in order to face Dracula, instead of being unwillingly given the vampire curse from a good vampire. Batman defeated Dracula, but the curse proved too much for Bruce to handle, and he gave in to the full curse and embraced his new bloodlust. With someone like Batman as a crazed vampire, the other heroes of this Earth didn't last too long before they too were also turned into vampires, which is when, together, they formed the Blood League. I wouldn't call them heroes though. This superpowered group of vampires did enough damage on their own world that they decided to leave it and attack the planet Rann, and they were later coerced into invading the universe of Earth 13. Eventually, Batman and the Blood League even played a part in the death metal event. Number 8. Deceased. While Bruce Wayne did play a part in DC's answer to Marvel Zombies, Deceased, it was his successor that was arguably much more important. When the anti-life equation techno-organic virus infected a huge number of the Earth, Bruce got infected when he had to fight off the infected Nightwing and Tim Drake Robin. Using Mr. Freeze's cryosuit, he was able to slow down the virus long enough to study it and give information and say goodbye to the remaining Justice League and his son, Damian Wayne, who would go on to take his father's mantle at the age of just 13 years old. The fight against the anti-living eventually reached cosmic scales. The heroes eventually found themselves facing Erebos, the one who was responsible for the entire anti-living outbreak. Now, Deceased is a long comic book run, so I can't give you all the details in this short little time, but Damian essentially grows up over the run of the comic, stepping fully into his role as Batman and creating a relationship with the new Wonder Woman, Cassie. Alfred Pennyworth eventually becomes the new Spectre and bringing a cure for the anti-living, but right near the end, Damian organizes the final attack on Erebos in Limbo. Now, in an all-white batsuit that looks amazing, Damian put the life equation, the opposite to the anti-life equation, inside of himself, and he decided to detonate it inside of Erebos to destroy him and the anti-living from the inside out. He makes the ultimate sacrifice, and it's pretty awesome. Number 7. B-Rex. Some of the coolest stuff has come from the Dark Multiverse, and of all the alternate characters to come out of it, a Bruce Wayne who transferred his consciousness into the mechanical T-Rex in his Batcave has to be one of the most awesome. Now, as a Batman T-Rex, Batmanosaurus Rex, or just B-Rex if you prefer, Batman decided that he has been wasting time, not just completely wiping out his villains, and so he goes on a dinosaur rampage through Arkham Asylum, chomping and crushing inmates and staff alike. B-Rex gets recruited by the Batman Who Laughs, just like a bunch of other Dark Knights, and he was involved in the invasion of the regular multiverse and was even important to the revival of the Batman Who Laughs into the Darkest Night. Unfortunately, during the final battle, B-Rex and Batmage face off against Solomon Grundy, who had the strength to stop them both. Number 6. The Final Night. The Final Night is actually Duke Thomas, who was a sidekick to the Batman that the demon Barbados used as a gateway into the multiverse and who was ultimately transformed into Barbados the Dragon of the End. Now this Batman, alongside the rest of his league, who were also transformed into dragons, brought the collapse of their world, and Duke fled into the multiverse to survive. Duke eventually returns to face these dragons, only to be saved by that universe's Nightwing, who brings Duke to the surviving members of the Justice League, who band together and give almost all of their lives to fight the dragons, with Duke being the one to bring down his old mentor. After slaying the Dragon of the End, Duke turned his hide into crazy awesome armor and wielded Nightwing's massive battle axe. Now calling himself the Final Knight, he escapes his crumbling reality and sets out into the Dark Multiverse to become one of its only real heroes.
Number 5. Star Sapphire. Despite still being known as Star Sapphire on Earth 11, Carol Jordan, an alternate of both Hal Jordan and Carol Ferris, is actually the equivalent to Hal Jordan's Green Lantern of the Prime Earth. Earth 11 is a world in which the premier superhero team of Earth, known as the Justice Guild, is basically gender bent, being made up of mostly female superheroes who are versions of their Prime Earth male counterparts. Wonder Woman, of course, in this reality though, is a man, because that would of course be the gender bend for Wonder Woman, Wonder Man. Despite being the alternate version of this Earth's Green Lantern, however, Carol still remains here a Star Sapphire, but is cemented solely as a hero, so not necessarily Star Sapphire in the sense that sometimes she's kinda evil. Number 4. Tangent Comics. I love the whole look of this character, to be honest. She seems super cool and super mysterious. This version of Green Lantern hails from Tangent Comics, as per the name of this point, obviously. She made her first appearance in Tangent Comics Green Lantern issue number 1 in the 90s. Now if you aren't familiar, Tangent Comics was actually a DC imprint that existed from 1997 to 1998. It had various one-shot comics that introduced new characters who use names familiar to us through DC Comics mainline, but adding a new creative spin on them. As a result, its characters were super different from the versions that we are used to. Green Lantern herself has claimed to have many different names, including Lois Lane and Zatanna, but her true identity still remains a mystery to us. Her power actually seems to come from a more traditional Chinese lantern as well, so she's quite a different character and quite a different take, which I guess is why I like her so much. Number 3. Alan Scott. Now for this one, we're not talking about the Prime Earth Alan Scott. In fact, you may have noticed I'm actively trying to avoid mentioning any Prime Earth lanterns on this list that, just are not Hal Jordan. We are talking instead about Alan Scott of Earth 2. This version of Alan Scott gained his powers after he almost died as the result of a train crash. Here, Alan Scott specifically uses his Green Lantern powers to fight against the Grey, which is also interesting because his former love, Sam Zhao, actually goes on to become an avatar of the White. Yes, in this reality, Alan Scott is still gay. For any who are wondering, in fact his history here differs somewhat, as he is actually openly gay in this reality, which is a little different. In fact, Alan was about to propose to Sam when the train they were on crashed, ultimately leading to Alan getting his powers after being left as the only survivor. That's right, everyone else was gone, is just Alan left. He was approached by the Green Flame, which told him he was chosen to become the protector of Earth as Earth's Green Lantern. Number 2. Emerald Knight. This alternate version of John Stewart hails from Earth number 3, the home of the crime syndicate. This version of John, however, unlike many others from this universe, doesn't seem to be exactly a supervillain. Although he definitely does kill people and has made some questionable choices for sure, but there's definitely people in this reality that are more villainy than him. Initially, this version of John Stewart was a father and policeman who made a deal with a crime lord in order to get his daughter an emergency operation on her leg that she desperately needed. Although he paid the crime lord back right away, as he obviously did not want to be in debt to him, one night the crime lord's son ran into John and basically mocked him for having ever even made a deal with his father. Furious, John beat the son of the crime boss out back in an alleyway. When his daughter begged him to stop, a ring appeared presenting itself to him. Because the son was basically at this point threatening to tell his father and promised that John and his daughter would pay with their lives for their actions here, John chose to accept the ring and became an Emerald Knight, one of the overlords of Oa's soldier. A major difference between the Emerald Knights and the Green Lanterns of Prime Earth is that they can severely punish those who are deemed their enemy, often killing them. Number 1. DCAU John Stewart. While we know of John Stewart from the Prime Earth reality, the main continuity currently of the comics, he also has an alternate that hails from the DC animated universe. The animated universe isn't just pulled from one show, but is actually made up of a collection of shows, films, and comics, all exploring the same versions of these characters. It's not even really just its own universe, to be honest. At this point, it's also kind of like its own multiverse, possessing at least 9 of its own different alternate Earths. Here, John Stewart has a similar origin to his comic book counterpart, serving in the military before later being selected to be a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Part of the reason he actually believes he was selected is because of his time spent reading superhero comics as a kid, which he thinks actually helped him to aspire to become a hero, developing heroic traits and characteristics, and hence therefore being selected to become a Green Lantern. Number 10. Young Justice. Earth 16 is the designated number given to the reality we see in Young Justice. Despite being an animated series, Young Justice is actually considered to be separate from the main DCAU reality, and is instead its own separate Earth. Here, Hal Jordan is Green Lantern. We first met Jordan in 2010 when the series started, but he continues to appear in the series up until its final season in 2021. This version of Hal here is one of the founding members of the Justice League. Like in the comics, he is also based in Coast City. One of the fun facts that I just find entertaining from this universe is that Hal Jordan is revealed as not liking Guy Gardner. Both he and John Stewart in this reality were very much against having Guy join the Justice League when they were considering adding new members to the roster. Also, I gotta say, I haven't watched Young Justice yet, and it keeps getting recommended to me, so I feel like I really need to watch it. If you have a favorite moment or episode, let me know, because I want to go back and watch all of it. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not tell us that you love us by clicking that like button? Seriously, it really helps us out if you do that, so if you want to, then I would like that. Number 9. Earth 5. Hal Jordan of Earth 5 hails from an interesting reality. Here, Hal Jordan is still the hero known as Green Lantern, but what else do we know about him? Not much in terms of his origins, but what we do know is that in this reality, Hal doesn't swear or use profanity, because that's just not a thing that folks do on Earth 5, gosh darn it. He ended up being pitted against 2 other Green Lanterns when he was summoned by the future evil version of Captain Atom, who is known as Monarch. Number 8. Justice League of Assassins. Of course, with the Justice League of Assassins, they were pretty short-lived, appearing in only a single issue where, well, they kinda died, despite being, I would assume, amazing assassins. However, that being said, I think these are characters who ultimately look really cool when it comes to their design, which is why I'm including them here. And I'm sure, you know, before this moment, although we don't get to see much of them, they were all pretty bad. Included among their ranks was their own Green Lantern, who appears to be somewhat cybernetic in terms of his abilities and his look, instead of having just a straight up Green Lantern power ring. Now, this might explain why they didn't make it out alive past their first appearance in the Rebirth Superman issue number 15 from 2017. The Justice League of Assassins hail from Earth number 14. Hopefully we get to see more of Earth number 14 at some point. Number 7. Earth 33. Another version of Green Lantern that I find interesting, along with the world and team he hails from, is a Green Lantern of Earth 33. We don't know his name, but we know his powers are innately magic. He has only made one appearance in Countdown to Adventure issue number 3, but he comes from a really cool team from his Earth known as the League of Shamans. On Earth 33, their version of the Justice League are basically all magic users. The Green Lantern, while magic, still has a Green Lantern ring, and is supposedly also part of a version of the Corps from this reality. Whether the ring is also magic based remains to be completely confirmed here, but it does seem to be implied, at least to me, that Green Lanterns in this world were also based in the world of cosmic magic. At least, that's what it seems to me. Number 6. Abin Sur. On Earth 20, Abin Sur is actually the protector of Earth as Green Lantern. However, tragically, because he resembles a devil here, he actually protects Earth from a distance because he doesn't want to scare the planet's inhabitants. I think that's both sweet and also kinda sad. As such, he protects Earth from the Shadows, a hero who is largely unknown to the planet's populace. Not only is he a member of the Green Lantern Corps in this reality, but he is also a member of the Society of Superheroes, who were brought together by this universe's Dr. Fate, who goes simply by Doc Fate. Abin Sur as Green Lantern is also one of the heroes who joins up with the multiversal superhero team known as Justice Incarnate.
Number 5. Last Son of Earth. The Clark Kent featured in the Last Son of Earth story is very much a mirror image of the classic version of the character. In this Elseworlds tale, Jonathan Kent is a scientist on Earth who discovers that a meteor is headed for the planet. He builds a rocket and sends his newborn son out into space, where he ends up on Krypton and is discovered by Jor-El. Jor-El spends years adapting Clark to Krypton's harsh conditions and raises him as his own son. Kal-El is on an archaeology dig when he discovers a Green Lantern ring, which allows him to prevent the destruction of Krypton. He returns to Earth to see if anyone survived and discovers a post-apocalyptic society with one tribe being led out of the Daily Planet by their chief, Perry White, and an evil murderer named Lex Luthor being in charge of the other. Clark discovers that his time adapting to Krypton's atmosphere has given him superpowers while on Earth, giving him both the powers of Superman and Green Lantern. He manages to help restore the Earth, transforming it into a utopia with Krypton's technology. Number 4. Kingdom Come Superman. The Superman on Earth 22 is a bit older and wiser than the usual Superman, but he is no less powerful. He comes from a world where most of the classic heroes have retired, only to be replaced by violent and angry new heroes who have no value for human life. After Kansas is wiped out in a superhero accident, Superman comes out of retirement to help get the world back on track and to reform the Justice League. As he has gotten older, he has actually developed an immunity to kryptonite, leaving only his weakness to magic as an effective way to fight him. He was briefly transported to the main Earth, where the Justice Society kept him prisoner until they could gauge whether or not he was a threat. However, when he heard that a woman was about to jump off of a roof, he escaped custody and defeated the entire JSA in combat just to save the woman's life. Number 3. Red Sun Superman. Superman Red Sun asks the question, what if Superman didn't land in the United States, but instead landed in Soviet Russia? He is raised to be a Soviet Superman and defends the ideals that Stalin promotes. He eventually replaces Stalin and takes over the Soviet Union, using his armies and his powers to force every other country on Earth to fall in line and join the Union. The only country that doesn't join is the United States, that is being run by President Lex Luthor, who must stand up to Superman and prevent him from taking over the world. Throughout the book, we see awesome displays of power from the Man of Steel, with him being so effective that the people in his own country don't even bother wearing seatbelts anymore because they know he will save them. He fights versions of several of the heroes, such as Green Lantern, who he defeats with ease, telling him that a weapon that can create anything you can think of is useless against someone who can move faster than thought. Number 2. All-Star Superman. In All-Star Superman, the Man of Steel rescues a manned sun mission that is under attack by Lex Luthor. He stops the attack, but it turns out that Luthor's real plan is to cause him to overdose on solar radiation, giving him what is essentially a terminal disease. Superman is dying, but the extra solar radiation actually makes him stronger for the time he has left. He develops an immunity to kryptonite and becomes strong enough to lift 200 quintillion tons without breaking a sweat. It is because of these heightened powers that Superman is able to fly into the sun at the end of the story in order to prevent it from dying by building it an artificial heart to keep it alive. Number 1. Silver Age Superman. When Superman was introduced in 1938, it was considered the beginning of the golden age of superheroes. During this period, he slowly developed a lot of the powers we associate with him today. He was originally able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, and this eventually morphed into flying, things like that. His stories were quite grounded and usually featured him going up against gangsters and slumlords who were taking advantage of the people of Metropolis. This all changed in the Silver Age. In the Silver Age, Superman was going up against more and more outlandish sci-fi plots, which were known for giving Superman more and more powers as the stories went on. These included kind of weird powers like super ventriloquism and hypnotism, but they also beefed up his standard powers. Superman has of course always had super strength, but in the Silver Age he was so powerful that he could tow an entire galaxy's worth of planets behind him with a big chain. One sneeze from Silver Age Superman was powerful enough to wipe out a solar system. So yeah, he was pretty powerful. He was the Superman of Earth 1, and was actually the main Superman until the continuity reboot of 1986, Crisis on Infinite Earths, where we were introduced to the New Earth Superman, who other than during the New 52 era has been our main Superman ever since. Silver Age Supes is actually too powerful and was nerfed quite a bit for the New Earth era, but he is now considered an alternate Superman and is by far the most powerful version of the character. Number 10. Secret Identity Superman. In Secret Identity, Superman as we know him is a fictional character. We are introduced to a young boy named Clark Kent, who is named after the character by his parents. One night, he discovers that for reasons unknown, he actually has the powers of Superman, and he decides to become a real-life Superman. The book follows his career from child to old man as he tries to navigate the pressures of being a superhero and leading a normal life. He has all of Superman's powers, but as he isn't Kryptonian, he has several advantages. 1. Kryptonite doesn't exist, so he has no weakness that can instantly bring him to his knees. And 2, he's the only superpowered being on the planet, which means there is no one who can even hope to stand up to him. Luckily, like the fictional Clark Kent, he's a pretty chill dude, and he doesn't use his powers to take over the world or anything like that. Number 9. Calvin Ellis. When the Kal-El of Earth 23 was sent to Earth from Krypton by his parents, he was discovered by the Ellis family, who raised him as their own. Calvin Ellis grew up to be Superman, champion of justice and the oppressed, and he has all the powers of the classic Superman. However, what sets him apart is that he actually grew up to be President of the United States, making him the most powerful man on Earth both when he is Superman and when he is in his secret identity. Number 8. Bruce Wayne Superman. In this universe, Kal-El's rocket was not found by the Kent family, but by Thomas and Martha Wayne. They had no children of their own, so they adopted the child and named him Bruce Wayne. Bruce grew up being raised by the couple at Wayne Manor with the help of Alfred the butler. One night, when they were walking home from a movie, they were mugged by Joe Chill, who shot and killed Thomas and Martha. He tried to shoot Bruce, but he discovered that he was bulletproof, and Bruce promptly incinerated Joe Chill with his heat vision. He grew up having repressed the memory of his powers until one night the manor was infiltrated by robbers, causing him to rediscover his powers. Alfred took him down to the cave under the manor and showed him the rocket he came to Earth in, and Bruce became the vigilante Batman. He has all of the powers of Superman and all of the ruthlessness of Batman, making him someone who criminals should fear more than anything. He operated as Batman until a Jokerized Lex Luthor attacked Gotham with a militia, which Batman single-handedly stopped with no casualties. After this, he abandoned the Batman persona and at the urging of Lois Lane, became a less scary superhero, Superman. Number 7. Injustice Superman. In the world featured in the Injustice games and comics, Superman was brainwashed by the Joker into destroying Metropolis as well as Lois Lane and his unborn child. This caused Superman to snap, and he brutally killed the Joker. He decided to punish all the criminals and reshape the world in his image, becoming more unhinged and violent the more power he seized. He has all the standard powers of Superman, but unlike his main Earth counterpart, he doesn't hold back and won't hesitate to kill anyone who stands in the way of his new world order. Luckily, the Batman of this universe was able to synthesize kryptonite and make pills that help his insurgency become strong enough to take on the villains and former heroes that Superman has recruited into his cause. But Superman is still so unstoppable that the only person capable of defeating him was a Superman pulled from an alternate dimension. Number 6. Superboy Prime. This version of Kal-El was sent to Earth in a universe where Superman was already a fictional character. He didn't have any powers until a cosmic vortex opened up, transporting the Earth 1 Superman to his universe. This caused Superboy's powers to manifest, and he left to help Superman in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. When all of the Earths were destroyed, he escaped to the antimatter universe. He became so mad at having lost his home that he shattered reality with a punch. He became a twisted and cruel version of the Man of Steel, as he did anything it took to try and get home. As his version of Krypton was swallowed by its sun, there is no kryptonite in his universe, and he has been shown to be immune to any that he comes across. He is also immune to magic, unlike the usual Superman. His only weakness is that he is much more dependent on solar energy to maintain his powers power level and has to wear solar armor that keeps him fully charged.
Halfway through into number 5, Hot Pursuit. What is the Flash known for? Exactly, running really fast. That's his whole thing. Running so fast that he can beat instantaneous teleportation that he has in the comics. So, what's the deal with Hot Pursuit? First introduced in The Flash Volume 3, number 6. Hot Pursuit is a version of Barry Allen from another universe who came to warn his counterpart about an impending disaster, which ends up being Flashpoint. But the difference here is that this Flash doesn't run. Instead, he has a Speed Force powered motorcycle called the Cosmic Motorcycle. Yeah, his cowl is also a motorcycle helmet, so at least he's being safe about it. And his suit is black and white instead of, red. Unfortunately, Hot Pursuit dies 6 issues after he was introduced in Flash Volume 3, number 12 as a part of the Road to Flashpoint event, but the moniker Hot Pursuit would later be adopted by Patty Spivot as she stole his gear from the Central City Police Department. In it 4, No Rules to Follow. In an Elseworlds story where metahumans are hated, basically just mutants in the Marvel Universe, 10 individuals with powers band together to try to get the world to trust them by doing good deeds. These people, who on another Earth would be known as the Flash, Shark, Fire, Dr. Light, Polaris, Power Girl, Poison Ivy, Tasmanian Devil, Changeling, and Metamorpho, unfortunately don't accomplish their goal, since their attempts to contain a nuclear meltdown just make everything worse. After this disaster, metahumans go into hiding, and a few metas, Flash included, began raiding military bases that had previously attacked them. But after a battle with the Control Squad, which was a group of high-tech operatives that the Wayne Foundation had created to fight metahumans, caused an even further split, resulting in Ivy, Changeling, and Metamorpho all hating the military even more. But when Superman showed himself, everyone eventually kind of accepted it. Then Batman, or I guess Wayne, ended up creating the version of the Justice League that was just known as the Justice League. But again, this is a very interesting Flash. It's basically the Flash cosplaying Juggernaut or Juggernaut cosplaying Flash, whichever one you want to pick. In at 3, Speed Demon. Remember how I love to mention the Amalgam universe that combines the DC and Marvel characters? And then I also mentioned Iron Lantern and no one believed that it was a thing. Yeah, it was. It's a combination of Hal Jordan and Tony Stark. But today, I'm presenting to you Speed Demon, a combination of Barry Allen and Johnny Blaze, aka Blaze Allen. He was a circus daredevil who sold his soul to become the first Speed Demon. The demon component of this character, Etrigan, was also formerly Jay Garrick before the Night Spectre stole Jay's soul. The Night Spectre approached Blaze and asked him to serve him in his attempts to collect souls of the most pure and most corrupt. Blaze Allen refused to do so, so to persuade him, at his wedding night, Night Spectre stole Iris's soul. Blaze then accepted the bond, hoping to get Iris back, or at least to ensure her safety. Speed Demon also speaks only in rhymes, but they're a speedster with a flaming skull head that can also breathe hellfire, okay? It's pretty freaking dope. Wally West, also, who is an amalgam of Wally West and Danny Ketch, was the next Speed Demon after that who accepted the power in order to help his uncle get Iris's soul back. But ultimately, in at number 2, Wizard. This version of the Flash actually comes from the Marvel Universe, believe it or not. And while yes, speedsters are like a superhero archetype, this one is like a deliberate reference to the Flash from an unofficial Justice League versus Avengers crossover fight in the Marvel Universe. The Wizard is a member of Squadron Supreme, which comes from a parallel dimension of the Marvel Multiverse. Stanley Stewart is his name, and while running late one night, he ran through a strange fog. Over the next few weeks, he gained the ability to run faster than anyone else, which I didn't know Fog had the ability to do, but hey, it's comics. The original goal of Squadron, which Wizard was a founding member of, was to create a utopia, which they would have accomplished. They turned much of the world into a paradise within the first year, but stopped when a former member, known as Nighthawk, convinced them that it was in essence a dictatorship. Shortly after the project ended, multiple members of the team got stranded in the main Marvel universe, but did end up making it home. And finally, in at number 1, The Crash. This is like my favorite alternate version of the Flash. Coming from Earth C-, The Crash is the fastest animal alive, and a member of the JLA, or the Just a Lotta Animals group, which is this world's Justice League. On Earth C-, everyone is some form of animal, and it's probably the most ridiculous thing that you could ever read. While his name is unknown, The Crash is this universe's Flash, and not only that, he's a turtle, okay? In a classic tortoise in the hare scenario, slow and steady wins the race to get super speed and a connection to the Speed Force, I guess. And I'm not even kidding. He fights against characters with names like Weather Weasel instead of Weather Wizard, and that's hilarious. I love it so much. He was first introduced in Captain Carrot and his amazing Zoo Crew number 14, which is even better, which features superheroes like Wonder Rabbit, Aquaduck, and Batmouse. Not a Batman bat, which is kind of confusing. Oh, and the Green Lambkin instead of the Green Lantern. But again, there's also Green Sparrow. I love a ridiculous meme pun series that actually is kind of good, and they all have me cackling. And at 10, Blitzkrieg. Earth X Flash, or Blitzkrieg, was born and raised in a world where Germany won World War II. And since this is a sensitive subject for YouTube, I'm going to avoid using specific terms, so sorry in advance, but you know what I'm talking about. While his real name is unknown though, Der Blitz, as he's known in German, is a member of Geretsliga, which is basically just an evil regime version of the Justice League, also referred to as the JL Axis. The current members are Brunhild, the Earth X Wonder Woman, Leatherwing, Earth X Batman, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Flash, Green Lantern, and Overman, which is the Superman of Earth X. But this version of the Flash also appears in the Freedom Fighters The Ray animated series that takes place in the Arrowverse, but was interestingly missing from the Crisis on Earth X crossover event that featured characters from that show. Instead, this Flash was just Eobard Thawne of Earth 1 wearing Harrison Wells' face, who went and joined the regime, which is a whole other can of worms. But it leads people to believe that he killed the Earth X Flash in order to prove himself. And at 9, Kingdom Come Flash. Wally West from Earth 22 is weird to me, okay, since it feels kind of backwards. In the Kingdom Come universe of Earth 22, Wally West received his speed through unknown means, but nonetheless he still became the Flash. When Superman retired, Wally kept going, but he kept going and kept going and never stopped, running from scene to scene, disaster to disaster, never taking a break. For this, however, he had a daughter who got her speed genetically and became Kid Flash, but this is where it really gets weird. His children were named Iris West and Barry West. It kind of sets me on edge because they're supposed to be older than him, but Wally is supposed to inherit the Flash mantle. Not to mention that this time Barry and Iris are actually biological siblings, which only makes all the memes about the Arrowverse even worse. But considering how Wanda and Pietro in the Ultimate Universe is a thing, this kind of thing isn't anything new for the comics. Gotta love those Game of Thrones stories, right? Okay, well in this universe his kids don't end up dating, but you know what I mean. In at 8, Capitalist Couriers. First appearing in Flash Volume 2 number 6 in 1987, the group originally known as the Red Trinity was created by Russian scientist Pyotr Orlov when he and his partner attempted to recreate Flash's super speed abilities after watching a daring rescue. The second group of test subjects were successful and were renamed the Red Trinity. The group included Anatoly, Bebek, and Kasofia, and they became agents for the Soviet military. But here's where things get weird. When the third Flash came to enlist the help of Dr. Orlov in the issue of saving Jerry McGee's life, the Red Trinity chose to follow Orlov to America. While there, they became infatuated with American culture and decided to stay there, opening a business as a team of super speed messengers called Capitalist Courier Services Inc. Kasofia has since died. He was running up the side of a building to make a delivery when his speed vanished for some reason and he fell to his death. That was thanks to Savitar's reappearance, but these Russian speedsters literally made Amazon Super Prime. Okay, that's great. That's so good. That's hilarious. That's what I would do with my powers if I got super speed. And at 7, Leah Nelson. Leah Nelson from Earth 9 is a very different version of the Flash, to say the least, but on her Earth, Leah is the second most recognized person on the planet. She was an instant celebrity since her parents were the first people to visit Jupiter, and her mother was a bit of a hero and her father was a Nightwing agent, even if he wasn't very good at his job. Leah is a being of light, and once able to control her power, she took on the moniker of the Flash. Since she is a being of light, she's able to travel at the speed of light, making her a speedster without a connection to the Speed Force, which I admit may frustrate some of you with her being on this list, but I don't know, I thought it was interesting, okay, and certainly an interesting version of the Flash. Leah also had a whole host of powers, including superhuman speed, metamorphosis, where she uses light to create solid holograms to alter her appearance, energy construct creation, allowing her to make solid objects out of light like a Green Lantern, energy projection, which is just beams of energy, and energy absorption. And it's 6, Savitar. The Savitar from the comics is certainly another interesting character. First appearing in Flash Volume 2 number 108 in 1995, the man whose name is still unknown who became Savitar was a Cold War test pilot. As he reached top speed in a test flight for a supersonic fighter plane, the plane was struck by lightning and went down around in hostile territory. Once he learned about his speed though, he became obsessed with it and craved more, like any good villain does. He named himself after the Hindu god of motion and spent years studying, learning new powers that no other speedsters had mastered. He can protect himself in what is in essence a speed force shield field, can give speed to objects and other people, and heal injuries instantaneously instead of just way faster. As Savitar's obsession grew, so did his followers, and he became the leader of basically his own self-worshipping cult, and he desired even more after that. So he went after the only speedster around at the time, Johnny Quick. The fight ended up causing Max Mercury to show up and led him into the speed field where Savitar bounced off, but he did at some point return and instead wanted to eliminate his competition, including the Flash, Impulse, and especially Max, but he ended up dying in Flash Volume 2 number 111 from 1996.
Number 5. Robot Man. This version of our favorite cybernetic hero comes from the Kingdom Come universe. In this storyline, Victor Stone actually becomes fully integrated with his robotics, losing his physical humanity in the process. But thanks to this being the future, technology is a little bit more advanced and he becomes made up of a liquid metal, all Terminator T-1000 style. Since he can shape his form in any way he wants, he chooses to look as human as possible, at least in shape. He's still all super shiny liquid metal, so it doesn't really work out fully, but... Victor then joined the Superman's Justice League to combat the rogue metahumans taking the name Robot Man. Unfortunately though, he met his end in the Gulag with a large group of other heroes. Number 4. Cyborg 2.0. Okay, so this one involves time travel, which I hate, but alas, here we are. So basically, the Teen Titans end up traveling to the 31st century to help out the Legion of Superheroes, and on their way back, they end up 10 years in their future, and they encounter an alternate timeline version of themselves who have become a fascist crime-fighting force. The Titans came back and vowed to never become that future, so they split up to avoid it. Only, that is the exact thing that caused this future to occur in the first place. Victor was one of the first to turn to the dark side, and he created the Titans East, and also caused the Phantom limbs to appear. He also had this really cool slimmed down look. It was kind of awesome, but he was evil, so you can't really take a side. Sorry. Number 3. Injustice Cyborg. In this timeline, just like most of the other heroes, Cyborg had a very similar life to his main Earth counterpart. That is, up until Superman went bonkers. Once Superman established his regime, Cyborg kind of became Superman's Boy Scout. He was very dedicated to Superman, which is not what I would have expected, honestly. He was Superman's guy in the chair and helped him out quite a bit. Honestly, Cyborg was kind of really lame in this story. He gets defeated and incapacitated a lot. The best one though was when Batman revealed there had been a virus that he implanted in Cyborg when they first met, and just had it in his back pocket for whenever he would need it. Number 2. Murder Machine. Yes, there is a Batman Cyborg hybrid who is part of the Batman Who Laughs Dark Knights, and yes, he is terrifyingly awesome. Murder Machine first appears in Dark Days the Casting in the Dark Multiverse Earth -44. On this world, this evil Batman Cyborg comes about after the passing of Alfred Pennyworth in the Batcave by a group of Batman's villains. As Bruce Wayne's father figure and closest friend, Bruce took this loss hard and he blamed himself. He asked Cyborg to make an Alfred Cyborg AI called Alfred Protocol in order to help Bruce like Alfred used to do when he was alive. Unfortunately, like most AI in fiction, it went mad with its directive of protecting Batman. It spread like a virus, took down all the villains, then all the heroes, and even took over Batman's body since it didn't believe that Batman could protect himself well enough. And Batman just didn't want to be separated from Alfred, so he was kinda cool with it too. And in at number 1 is Grid. As with a lot of these alternate Justice League variants, we gotta turn to Earth 3 for at least one. After the Cyborg of Earth 3 gained his abilities, he realized that he could monitor all superhuman beings, but he didn't want to invade their privacy directly. So instead, he let secondary subsystems within his software do the privacy invading itself. He called this the Grid. Unfortunately though, this grid managed to grow and learn from hackers and viruses throughout the world, so that it grew into a neural network that then developed into full consciousness with some help from Atomica, who used used it against the Justice League and brought it with her to the Crime Syndicate of America. Grid now used Cyborg's parts and body to give itself its own body. Essentially, it took over the body of Cyborg, gaining all of his powers but with none of his humanity. It's very, very, very scary. Number 10. Deceased. After the Justice League defeated Darkseid, he somehow managed to discreetly abduct Cyborg and take him to his homeworld of Apocalypse. There, it was revealed that a half of the anti-life equation was contained inside Cyborg. Darkseid sought to merge the half of the equation inside Cyborg with the half he already possessed, but dceu warned that combining the two halves inside Cyborg would likely kill him. But Darkseid don't cur, so he tried to do it anyways, which resulted in a corrupted anti-life equation that became a techno-organic virus and infected Darkseid. Darkseid, upset, shot this infected Cyborg back to Earth, where he automatically connected to the World Wide Web, instantly infecting every single person who was using it with the virus, and chaos immediately erupted. While he kind of unintentionally put a zombie-like plague on the world, he did try to save it in the end. Keyword try. Number 9. Aquaborg. In Superman Batman issues 60 and 61, we're introduced to the Justice Titans, and in case it wasn't obvious, this is indeed a mashed together version of both the Justice League and the Teen Titans, which in my mind makes things kind of complicated since Cyborg is a main part of both after Flashpoint. Aquaborg himself seems to be a mix of Aquaman and Cyborg, as his name is Arthur Stone. We don't really see him do anything specifically worth mentioning other than fighting Batman and an amalgamated Doomsday and Deathstroke called Doomstroke. Number 8. Earth 3839. In this alternate universe, appearing in Superman and Batman Generations 2, number 4, Cyborg, well, he's a bit of a chump. During a confrontation with Metallo, this Earth's Alexander Luthor, Cyborg gets completely immobilized by an EMP and had to be carried to safety by the other heroes, who included Jay West the Flash, Clark Wayne, a superpowered Nightwing, Janet Hall as Black Hawk, and Hal Jordan Green Lantern. Unfortunately, there isn't really much more to say about this one. He was kind of poo, but at least the story was cool. Number 7. DCEU Cyborg. Played excellently by Ray Fisher, the movie version of Cyborg seen in Justice League initially refused to join the team, though after his father was captured, he voluntarily pitches in and he successfully saves his father from the hands of Steppenwolf. When Superman returned, his offensive system kicked in and he attacked Superman, which triggered the Man of Steel to fight the Justice League, which was a really cool moment. Cyborg also played a super important role in the final act, where he began to separate the mother boxes that had formed the Unity. And of course, with the help of Superman, he succeeded, since no one in this universe can do anything without Henry Cavill, apparently. Thankfully, Cyborg has a substantially larger role in Zack Snyder's massive Justice League director's cut, which delves deeper into his backstory and his strained relationship with his father. I kind of hope we get to see Ray Fisher reprise the role at some point. Number 6. Flashpoint Cyborg. When Barry Allen Flash goes back in time to try and save his mom, he royally messes up the timeline, pretty much changing the whole DC universe. In this newly created timeline called Flashpoint, Cyborg is America's greatest hero in place of Superman, based out of Detroit. When the Amazons and the Atlanteans go to war with each other, Cyborg tries to gather a group of Earth's superhumans to help stop the conflict that has already ravaged half of Europe. But thanks to Thomas Wayne, this timeline's Batman, refusing to join up, nobody else wanted to join his group either. But then superstar Barry Allen shows up and convinces Wayne otherwise, and the three set off to gather together an army and save the day. Number 5. Aurora of Themyscira. Comics seem to continuously supply us with things we never thought we needed. In a moment not likely to happen again in the near future, the House of DC and the House of Marvel were friends. They could talk, they could play nice, and to prove that, one of the most beloved moments came in the mid-1990s when these two companies joined forces for a crossover. This took place in the amalgamated world of Earth 9602. On this Earth, it was not Diana Prince who became Wonder Woman. Instead, a meta-mutant child by the name of Aurora was rescued and raised as a princess of the Amazons by Queen Hippolyta, a lot alongside Diana Prince. The two fought alongside each other as they grew up, but when the time came to choose who would be Wonder Woman, Aurora's natural ability to control and harness the forces of the weather, plus her Amazonian training, allowed her to secure the victory. She went off to become one hell of a hero when she finally left the island to enter man's world. It's such an interesting and surprising mashup of characters, but when you properly think about it, it really does make a whole lot of sense that Storm and Wonder Woman could be the same person. Number 4. Injustice Wonder Woman. When you've got to sell a video game, you make your characters badass. And when that game is taking the heroes and villains of the DC Comics universe and mixing it with Mortal Kombat, that's just a recipe for some unstoppable forces. The Wonder Woman from the Injustice series is that unstoppable force. Injustice is essentially Superman losing his family and then deciding that he and other super beings should rule the Earth. His number one go-to person is Diana, and she's basically even worse than he is. Many people have argued that Wonder Woman was the real antagonist of the story. She caused the passing of Captain Atom, one of the best hopes against Superman. She takes the life of Huntress for insulting Superman, is the accomplice in the passing of Martian Manhunter and this low-level guy called Galaxor. She turns Harley Quinn into a shish kebab. She had taken the place of Lois Lane as Superman's lover, turned the other Amazons to Superman's cause, and the whole time she was doing that, she was whispering in Superman's ear, pushing him to go even farther and farther down the path of villainy. Number 3. Dead Earth. Now, I'm not sure what the general consensus on this comic book is, and quite frankly, I don't care because I think this version of Diana of Themyscira is just absolutely insanely dope. The comic picks up in an apocalyptic wasteland in what used to be Gotham. Deep down in the remnants of the Batcave, Wonder Woman had been kept alive in a containment unit and was awoken by a group of humans who were running from a mutated monster known as a Hydra. After saving the Humies and liberating their city, she journeys to Themyscira only to find out that the Hydra are actually her fellow Amazons mutated by atomic radiation after the Amazons had decided to go to war with the rest of humanity who had driven the Earth to its breaking point. The human world had bombarded Themyscira with nuclear fire, even though Diana used the absolute limits of her abilities to stop it. When Superman, who fought for humanity, turned up to try and explain why he couldn't have helped her, we just see how powerful this Wonder Woman is. Losing complete control of herself, Wonder Woman and Superman fought each other to the point of causing a great fire that plunged the world into the apocalypse, and at the end of that fight, Wonder Woman, who was double fisting some kryptonite, brought Superman to his final rest with a hole straight through his chest. She collapsed from the exhaustion, and when she learned of this past, Wonder Woman decided to set things right and protected what was left of humanity from what she once called her sisters. And in at number 2 is Brunhilde. Earth 10 is a universe where things happen just a little differently in terms of our world history. Mainly, I'm talking about who came out on top at the end of World War II. Instead of what really happened, the Axis powers came out on top here, turning Germany and their symbol-wielding fascist party into the world's next superpower. But the only reason they achieved this was because they had actual superpowers on their side. The Justice League Axis, which eventually became the new Reichsman. For this alternate Wonder Woman, we actually have 2 different women, both going by the name Brunhilde. The first being red-headed and the second being blonde-haired and blue-eyed. No surprise there, but both being extremely capable female warriors with seemingly no weaknesses. She seems to take inspiration from Norse mythology, and for me to back that up, there is indeed a Prime Earth Brunhilde who is the leader of the Valkyries. What's interesting is that in the Golden Age, the Valkyries were enemies to Wonder Woman, but on the Prime Earth, it's actually become canon that Valkyries and Amazons are part of the same race. As such, Brunhilde does have all the same attributes as Wonder Woman, which was probably a big help in taking over the world. And finally, in at number 1 is Nubia. Nubia isn't really an alternate version of Wonder Woman. She's pretty much her own character, and she is in fact the sister of Diana. Nubia came to be in the exact same way as Diana, but where Diana was molded from white clay, Nubia was molded from black clay, and stolen away by the god of war, Ares, or if you prefer, Mars. Nubia was charged by the Greek gods with defending the entrance to the river Styx and the gates of Tartarus, and that on its own should tell you how capable this Amazon really is. Her powers appear to be exactly the same as Diana, and on Earth 23, Nubia actually is Wonder Woman, but seems to be even more powerful with complete access to her world's technology technology and mystical devices, suggesting her position may be more like Queen Hippolyta rather than Diana. And that's probably the case, because on Prime Earth, Nubia became the new and current Queen of Themyscira, and eventually the Queen of all Amazons. She's so cool and definitely my favorite of all those to have been Wonder Woman. Now, coming in at number 10 is Wondrous Man from Earth 11. Talking about unstoppable alternate Wonder Woman, and of course, a man makes the list. Yikes. Dane of Elysium is from the alternate Earth of Earth 11, and he isn't the only gender-swapped hero. In fact, all the heroes you may be used to are swapped. Here, the Amazons are an all-male race of warriors. The Themyscirians had actually joined with the world, creating a matriarchal society, and this group of male warriors made their way to the Isle of Elysium, where they would remain segregated from the women's world. Dane was their prince, and a hero to the world, until he wasn't. Dane found himself expelled from the Justice Guild, this world's Justice League of America, and banished from Women's World when he took the life of Maxine Lord for controlling Superwoman. Dane didn't take too kindly to this banishment, and so he decided to fight for his honor and the honor of the Amazons of Elysium by invading the United States and battling the Justice Guild, the Freedom Fighters, and the Army of Atlantis. In at number 9 is Flashpoint Wonder Woman. Flashpoint is one of the groundbreaking stories to come out of DC, presenting us with an alternate timeline caused by the Flash. It's also going to be the basis for the DCEU's Flash movie. What I have not heard word on just yet is if the Warlord version of Wonder Woman from Flashpoint will show up in that movie. By all that is holy, I hope she does. This version of Wonder Woman is already Queen of the Amazons when we are introduced to her character, and she's in a bitter rivalry and war with Atlantis and its ruler, Emperor Aquaman, which is a stupid name. That whole conflict started when her mother, Queen Hippolyta, was removed from the living at Wonder Woman and Aquaman's wedding. Diana then took the life of Mira as retribution, and the conflict snowballed until Diana had taken complete control of the UK as the new Themyscira. This version of Wonder Woman is basically the same as the standard Wonder Woman, but it's her feats and her title as Queen of the Amazons that makes her pretty much unstoppable. Number 8, Becca from Gods and Monsters. Becca may just be the strongest of the Wonder Women who have shown up today, and that's because she's different from them all. She isn't even an Amazon. Becca, who was Wonder Woman in the animated Gods and Monsters, is actually a new god. She was exiled from New Genesis following her marriage to Darkseid's son, Orion, a wedding that was interrupted by her family, who used the momentary peace between New Genesis and Apocalypse to launch a sneak attack. When she came to Earth, she became Wonder Woman alongside a vampire Batman and a Superman who was actually the son of General Zod. As a new god, she does have similar abilities to Wonder Woman, only they should be far superior. She wields immortality, super strength and durability, flight, super healing, and self-sustenance, but more literally, she also wields a golden lasso, New Genesis armor, and a sword given to her by Orion that was crafted by the greatest smiths on Apocalypse and is basically indestructible. Certainly a powerful version of Wonder Woman. Number 7, Superwoman from Earth 3. While Superwoman is an alternate version of Wonder Woman, originally she was actually the Lois Lane from Earth 3, who on this world seems to have similar powers to a Kryptonian, but she was indeed an Amazon, wielding the lasso of submission instead of truth, which was capable of forcing others to do her bidding and forcing them to love her. She was capable of not only everything Wonder Woman could do, but she could fire beams of red-hot energy from her eyes, and she could fly, which I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman can do most of the time. She created an incredibly toxic love triangle between Ultraman, which is Superman in this world, and Owlman, which is Batman in this world, of the Crime Syndicate of America, even having a child with Owlman, but promising to Ultraman that it was his, but it was actually some other guy's baby, and it's just this big whole thing, and whew, don't want to talk about it anymore. Number 6, Donna Troy of Earth 3. Just as Donna Troy became the new Wonder Woman in the legit continuity, on Earth 3 she would also become the new Superwoman. But unlike the previous Superwoman, who seemed to have the same abilities as a Kryptonian, Donna Troy was a bona fide Amazon from Demon Island. As the Queen's daughter, Donna was trained harder and pushed farther than any other person on the island. She was expected to become stronger than any other, and when she met Steve Trevor and fell in love, it was her test of strength to go against that love and snap him like a dry twig. Now, having proven herself worthy in her mother's eyes, she set off into the world and forced her way into the crime syndicate of America as the new Superwoman, wielding the lasso of submission. Now, Donna's whole life goal is to truly make her mother proud by eventually returning to Demon Island, slaying her, and taking the throne for herself. Goals? Number 5. The Batman who frags. Yes, we are sticking with the Dark Multiverse still, and I will for the next point too, but I promise that is not a negative, and I can prove that to you by telling you that this version of Batman is a mix with Lobo. In an attempt to gain their powers, this Batman injected himself with Zarnian DNA, Zarnians being the race that Lobo is the sole survivor of. This did totally give Batman the insane super strength and healing factor that we often attribute to Lobo, but it had the maybe expected downside of completely changing Bruce's personality as well. He became much more aggressive, stabby, and volatile, and he also picked up one hell of a potty mouth. Batman also gained a much more similar look to Lobo as well, and I would be a liar if I said that this guy didn't look absolutely amazing. He's so cool. Unfortunately though, he isn't as cool as the real Lobo, and couldn't quite cut it when he was sent to capture the guy, instead finding himself trapped in a universe called Loboland, where he was forced to face a Lobo Justice League. Yes, it is as crazy as it sounds. Number 4. Dark Father. Okay, last Dark Multiverse Batman on this list, I promise, but also arguably one of the most alarming. That's because this version of Batman brought about the end of Darkseid, and in doing so, gained the evil god's abilities and even took on his appearance. He mastered the anti-life equation and controlled a massive army of para-Robins instead of the usual para-demons. He gave up the anti-life equation to his Superman, but he still went on to work with the Batman Who Laughs and invaded Earth Zero. Dark Father defeated the Teen Titans, the Titans, and Superman, which resulted in the destruction of the moon. He then built a new Apokolips inside of the core of the burnt out sun, and he kept Superman and many others imprisoned there until Batman, Wonder Woman, and Harley Quinn were able to come to the rescue, freeing Superman, who punched Dark Father into space. There he goes, look at him. Number 3. Red Sun. The Batman appearing in one of the greatest Superman stories ever, Red Sun, is not some crazy powerful amalgamation of characters. In fact, I'd say that he's considerably weaker than a number of alternate Batman on this list, but he is still Batman. In this dystopian Earth 30, where Superman became a tool of Stalin and his Soviet Union, Batman has become the most wanted man in Russia. As an adult, he became a blight on the Soviets and terrorized them, all for revenge on Pyotr Rozlov, the captain of the police who brought the demise of Bruce's parents. He became an idol for those who wanted to oppose Superman and his regime. Eventually, Rozlov turned on Superman and convinced Batman to take down the Man of Steel. So, he stole Wonder Woman, bound her with her own lasso, and drew Superman into a trap where he then bombarded the hero with simulated red sunlight. He forced the weakened Superman into a cellar to lock him away forever, but alas, Wonder Woman managed to destroy her own lasso and remove the generator powering the lamps. Unwilling to be locked up and lobotomized like everyone else who opposed Superman, Batman detonated a little boom boom that he implanted in his own small intestine. But before he passed, Batman revealed to Superman the truth of Rozlov's treachery and got his revenge in a really roundabout way. Number 2. Flashpoint Batman. With the loss of his son at the hands of a mugger, in the alternate Flashpoint timeline, Thomas Wayne was driven to send criminals to the afterlife as the ruthless vigilante Batman. His first victim would be Joe Chill, the very mugger who ended the life of his son. Now, originally planning to poison Joe, Thomas went the much more reasonable route of pummeling with his bare hands. This act drove his wife, Martha Wayne, into insanity, cutting a grin into her own face and becoming this timeline's version of the Joker. Thomas has a more important mission to him than his war on crime though, restoring his son's life. He meets the Flash, helps restore his powers, learns of the alternate timeline where Bruce actually lived, and assembles an alternate timeline Justice League, and together they restore the original timeline. Thomas eventually enters into the current DC timeline, and wishing for his son to stop being Batman, he teams up with Bane to completely break Bruce, but it fails. Since his introduction in Flashpoint Volume 2 Number 1 in July of 2011, Flashpoint Batman, Thomas Wayne, has been a complex, interesting, and infamously fan-loved character. And finally, in at number 1, Owlman. The crime syndicate of America hails from the strength-obsessed Earth 3, and is a twisted, evil version of the main universe Justice League of America. The Batman of this villainous league isn't a Batman at all. In fact, he isn't even Bruce Wayne. No, he is Thomas Wayne Jr., also known as Owlman. Thomas Wayne Jr. was the eldest son of the Waynes, yes, the older brother of Bruce in this world. He believed that his parents were managing their wealth poorly, and for that reason alone, Thomas decided that they needed to go. He tried to convince his younger brother Bruce to help him in this endeavor, but when the time came to do the deed, Bruce was pretty hesitant and attempted to dissuade Thomas. Perceiving this as a sign of weakness, Thomas took Bruce to the afterlife, while his butler and servant, Alfred, who would become known as the Outsider, ended the lives of their parents. Becoming the villain Owlman, Thomas asserted power, dominance, and control over the city of Gotham, forcing it to be under his control. There is a lot more to this Owlman, but what we need to know is that he, alongside the crime syndicate of America, could not save their world from the Monitor, and so they fled it, invading the main DC universe and bringing us the Forever Evil story, which is probably one of the most awesome stories to come out of the New 52.